Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a Saturday. Welcome to another show. This is a great show if you're interested in synthesizers. And I think you may be here because we're doing another show on noobs for Eurorack, if you want to call it that. That's a good little acronym, isn't it? If you're new to Eurorack, you can call it Neurorack. There you go. TM. No, you can borrow that if you like. Anyway, big welcome to everyone that's here. We've got, who will we start with? I reckon we'll start with Jamie. Now, Jamie, you are this magic button here. How you going, Jamie? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's pretty good, actually. Yeah, just selling stuff, buying stuff, not getting a whole lot done. But yeah, making patches. I've been doing some more on the Korg Prologue. Very simple synth, but it sounds pretty good, actually. So that, and yeah, that's about it, really. Yeah.
And the big news is that you've got the new computer, which you were just telling us before the show. Yes.
Yeah, I've got the new iMac, 10 core, 96 gig of RAM, plus the original 8, and the big 16 gig video card. So, you know, I thought about waiting, but we don't know about the new ones, the Apple new silicon ones. So I got this, and really for the streaming, because, you know, my streaming with everything open was running CPU at about 90%, 90. So
right,
I tested it out the other day, and I'm down to about 6. So.
Right.
Good
so
investment.
You done a test on it, and it seems to be okay so far?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
That's like a wipe of the forehead type moment, isn't it? You know, just let's wipe that little bit of worry off our forehead.
Yes, definitely. No, it's great. No, I'm really impressed. But yeah, would have preferred to put a Super 6, but hey.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, and then like mortgage everything that you own. with the Mac and all the other stuff, do you know what I mean? You know, it's just that starts adding up, doesn't it? Yeah. All right.
It certainly does.
We'll definitely come. We'll definitely come back to you, mate, because I want to find out more. But also, big, massive hello to Burg. Ollilaboratories is his music name.
Hello.
How you going? How's your week been?
Oh, it's been awesome. Thanks, Ranz. So what I've been doing is actually building the streaming setup in my studio, getting these cameras, and also got an ATEM Mini. So thanks for the pro tip there on that one. And I don't have all of my cameras mounted yet. I don't know if you see on my right hand side here. I have some shelving systems, and I'm going to put like I can actually show you what it looks like. These arms, right, that I bought from Manfrotto. So basically, you put this on the wall, and then you mount the camera on the other side, right? So I'm going to have 2 cameras on this side and 1 camera on that side, and the main camera in the middle. So I can basically show all of the stuff that's ongoing in this room. So everything's going to be both mounted for streaming and also for recording when I do my videos. So it's going to be really nice. So I haven't started mounting these guys up. We'll be doing that maybe during next week. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. I'm spending a lot of money on camera gear and not on synths, unfortunately. It's just like buying new tires to the car. It's a must-have. So yeah,
it hurts, doesn't it? You kind of think, I could have bought a synth with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And the most annoying part of it, that these cams that I have, these Lumixes, these small ones, they don't support HDMI streaming live. So I need to get new cams as well. I mean, it's kind of due, because these are getting old and a little bit rackety or whatnot. So I'm going to buy new Lumixes G7s, 3 of them actually. So it's going to be quite costly. But, I need them, right? And I will be able to use them for both recording and also for streaming. Yeah. So really, I can have them mounted all the time, and I don't have to put the cameras down and put them back up that I'm doing all the time. And also get these dummy batteries that you talked about, so I don't have to, charge the batteries all the time. I can have them connected. So that's really, my focus for this week and next week to get that sorted out.
Yeah, cool. And the Panasonics are actually pretty good. The G7s for the HDMI out on them. So I know a few guys that use them. And I'm not just talking about synth guys, I'm talking about a few other guys who you guys in the synth world may not know, but they've been using them as well. And the HDMI output's pretty quick. Like I've noticed with some of my cameras that I've got here, and I've got a big different array of cameras. I've got, Sonys and GoPros, and, I've got a Zoom, the old Zoom Q4 there. They all have different sort of speeds on how fast the HDMI out feed goes on them, so you do get a bit of latency on some of them. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's not a massive issue. But yeah, now we can't forget about Daren, because Daren's here as well. Big hello to you. How's your week been, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Spent a little bit of money on my Eurorack, just the cheap stuff, and then after that arrived, lost one of my monitors. So I shouldn't have spent the money on that. I should have kept it for some monitors.
And when you're talking about monitors, are you talking about visual monitors or audio monitors?
No, audio monitors. My
Right.
KRK is one of them. Just decided to just go.
That's a shame. Yeah.
So I'm mono in the studio at the moment, apart from headphones, obviously.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Now, how long have you had? It's a rocket, is it? The KRK. Have you had a rocket? Is it what you had? The black and yellow ones? How long did you have those for?
Yeah. Well, I've had them for about 5 years.
Okay. What version were they? Were they one of the original versions?
I think the Gen 2, I think.
Okay, because we all know that Gen 1's had some issues, right?
Yeah, I think the Gen 2, I think.
Yeah, right. If you do get bored one day, great video. You're gonna have to search it. The guy on YouTube is called EV Blog. So 2 E's, a V for Victor, and a blog. And he does a video on the KRKs, on the rocket. Takes it apart. He's actually an electronic engineer. Takes it apart, and he talks about how this stuff is just not very well made at all. And you should have seen that company go into damage control after that video went up. It was so funny. But yeah, no, that's a bit of a shame. Well, hopefully, can you get it repaired? That's probably, it may be a cheaper option, or are you going to have to replace it? What's the story there?
I don't know. I'm going to think about it because, like I say, they're the first studio speakers, so I was always going to upgrade anyway. So we'll see what I decide on, whether it's upgrade or I don't think I'll bother fixing it unless it's easy. I might whip it apart. I'm hoping it might even just be the fusing. The plug's gone.
Right.
But it didn't sound like it.
Yeah, get a screwdriver to it. Get a screw. What possibly could go wrong?
I've got to get to the back of all this, which is not easy. So in a 6x6 room, it's pretty hard to get to the plug. So we'll see.
Well, if you are interested, Daren, in the Yamahas, I've got a couple of pairs. You might, I've got a pair of HS7s, the white ones, and a pair of HS8s. So
I've got HS8s.
Yeah, and I don't use them, because the room I'm in is too big, and plus I've got some old tannoy lips where the funny shaped things. But I just I don't use. There's no monitors in my studio now. They're all gone. It's just headphones I use now because all I do is make sounds. So, but yeah, I've got.
Like I might switch to headphones because, I'll look you up on that. I say, I see what I decide on whether it's because my room's so small, it's almost hardly worth having speakers in it. To be honest, I've started doing a lot on headphones.
Well, you could just get yourself an MPC Live 2, and because the marketing. I mean, I believe everything the marketing says. The marketing did say that they were studio monitors, professional studio monitors in them. Imagine mixing a whole album on that, hey? And then taking it to someone like Charles Chicky Reeves and saying, "Here, I mixed it on the MPC Live 2," and see what he says.
Studio speakers.
Yeah. It says professional studio speaker monitors or something on there. We'll believe them. Anyway, all right, we're going to say hello to the Chatties because they're bursting to say hello to us, and ignore that comment below. I should probably clear that out, but I can't be bothered. That was from last week. So where do we start? We've got to go all the way back. Golly gosh, to the start. I think Andrew might have been first into the chat. So Andrew Brooks, Andy, we call him. Big hello to you, mate. Thanks for joining us. Finn is there. ASIO Head as well. D-Best is the best nickname on YouTube ever. Big hello to you. What else we got? Wagyu is there. Nice to see you back, Wagyu. I missed you a couple of weeks. Mega Mark is there. Nice to see you, mate. And I mean, obviously we're in there as well, so we're going to skip right past all of us. Mr. Max there. Pat Brady's there. Big hello to you. Sergio is there. Hi, mate. Marcus is there from Greece. Big hello to you, mate. Hope you're enjoying your what's it called again? That wonderful Synthstrom Deluge. That's it. Make some amazing tracks on the Synthstrom Deluge. We're going to talk about that a little bit, actually. There's a bit of a little hint there. Hanway Wiesner's there. Big hello to you, mate. Been having a few hellos during the week. I do talk to a couple of you guys during the week in Discord. So if there's anyone here that doesn't actually have Discord, I do recommend it. There's a link in my description of all of my videos to my Discord server. And it's a good way to keep the chat going during the week because you never know, you get bored and might want to say good day to the old Ranz here. Burkoot's there, and God, it just keeps going. It's awesome to have everyone here. I was just thinking to myself today, I wonder how many people we're going to have as concurrent viewers. That's that number that you see in YouTube. It's not like, it's not an ego thing or anything. It'd just be cool to see get to 100 one day. Inky's there. Now, this one I don't know if I'm going to pronounce right, but Apis Lapis, I guess, or Apis Lapis. I think it's the first one. And we got JP Page 2. Big hello to you. JX3D. Mike Delic. Got a few newbies there. It's good. And I'm going to keep going until I scroll off the end of the screen. Anyway, I think that's probably enough for now. If I've missed your name, I say every week, just throw the synth at your screen and discuss because we can't have that sort of stuff going on here. And without further ado, I think we get into the normal show. Maybe what we should do first is Daren bought some new modules. So, Daren, do you want to get your camera?
Well,
before?
Well, before you say that, Jamie's actually got more. Jamie's actually got quite a lot of these.
Yeah,
he's got two. I think you've got two.
Jamie's got all of them.
Yeah, Jamie's got the.
Yeah,
got it set up.
Yeah. I'm a total noob. I'm a total noob when it comes to Eurorack stuff, though. I really don't. You see, with me, anything like semi-modular or whatever like that, I make a great sound, but then I leave it on there for like months.
Yeah,
I don't want to change it. So, but yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, getting into modular, I mean, people sort of know that, many people know that I'll just make synth patches on, everything's built in under the. So for many years, it was like, I was thinking, what's the point of doing modular? What's the point of it all? You got to mess around with cables and then just do bleeps. But, I suppose the semi-modular, and it was probably actually the Behringer Neutron that really sort of started it off for me because that's a great Swiss Army knife as your center for a Eurorack system because it's got so many patch points that you can use those as modules really, and then and that's kind of how I started with going modular. I used that. I bought a rack brute case, one of the Arturia ones, and then shoved the Neutron in, and then a few modules, a couple of the Waldorf ones, and that's kind of how it started, really. So, and it's good, and I think the kind of things I've got into it, and the reasons why is, with a synth, you make your sounds and everything like that, and you do some music at the end of it all. That's the sounds at the end of the day. But for me, what I enjoy about Eurorack is the fact. It's the journey. It's the process of it all. That's the part I enjoy. Whether it sounds good at the end of it, I don't really know. But that's my kind of why I got into it.
Well, I want to keep you there because you did say that you're and
admit it, you're getting addicted.
You're a Eurorack noob, and I would say I'm a Eurorack noob as well. Yeah. So
you get a case, you have to fill it.
Yeah.
See, there, look, he's got three oscillators. Yeah.
But you've also got. So that's the Behringer Eurorack Go case, and you've also got the Rack Brute 6U next to it. So you've got some.
Yeah, if you give
some serious,
slightly
yeah. You got some serious modules going on there. So you've got the System 100M Behringer clone. You've got the chromatic modules from Dreadbox. Tell us. Go over the little ones that you've got across to the next to the chromatic because I can't quite see them. So the one
He's got more than me.
Sorry, I didn't have my headphones on. Right, yeah. So I started, as you can see on the right. You can see it's the Neutron, and I've got a couple of the Waldorf modules because they're on sale.
Yeah,
and they do quite a lot. But they are a little bit big. So, and I based it all around that really. And then, of course, the using the what do you call it, the Mini Brute 2S. So that was great. That kind of got me going a little bit. And then, of course, Behringer have done their modules, and the case, and that Behringer Go case is it's plastic, but it does the job. It's a good size. So I've got the Behringer modules like you. Probably, a similar sort of time as you. But then, of course, Dreadbox range were coming out in the stores, and they are fantastic. I love them. I think they're great.
They are.
The oscillators are just, well, we all know what Dreadbox are like. So I got the kind of full system, went a little bit bonkers with 3 of the oscillators, and then, I'll play something. So, first of all, what you can see, I've got on the top right.
Look at that patch.
There's a Maleko Growl, which is a single voice synth, basically, in a module. It's got its own filter and envelopes and all that type of stuff. So I've got that. And then I've got the... it's kind of like a bell sound, but they're coming from... Well, I'll shut up and play it.
See, I didn't need to get mine up. Look at that.
Nice.
So that's like a couple of the oscillators, but there's actually I've got 2 different patches set up there. So one of them, if I just turn it down and push play, this will just be. I thought I'd do a demonstration just using the Neutron. So it's the Neutron, but I've used some of the other modules.
Yeah.
To just using the oscillators basically of the Neutron. So give me a second.
That's amazing, mate.
So yeah, it's not the most musical thing I've ever done, but the thing is, it's using like that Neutron, just the oscillators. So there's 2 oscillators in there, so just use it as like the modules, and then bring it into another filter. And that's really how I kind of started with it, and yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah. So it's interesting how you say that you're a Eurorack noob or a Eurorack. We'll use that as a new term, I reckon. It's a good one. And I think, you've got the bug. There's definitely no doubt about it. You've got 2 cases now, and they're both full. Yeah. So, I mean, technically you could take the stuff out of
not a noob.
The rack brute. But, so Jamie, this is really a good question because I would consider myself a noob as well. Tell us
I'm a
what
noob as well.
Tell us what got you started. I know you mentioned the Neutron. Tell us what got you started with it, and what was your original plan? Obviously, they change, but so sort of go down that path for us.
Well, I mean, there wasn't really much of a plan because the biggest barrier, of course, is the case. None of us like spending money on something that doesn't make a noise, do we? You know, and if you're looking for, you know, prior to, I suppose, Behringer, you have the likes of Arturia who come out with a rack brute, and that's a great intro into it. In fact, in some ways, I kind of prefer the Arturia. There's little things that you find after a bit of time that annoy you. The whole chasing screws around the racks. You know, with the rack brute, there's just a strip of screw holes. So there's none of that messing around.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was plonk a Neutron in there, and then dip my toe in with a couple of modules that are, you know, things that make a bit of a change straight away. So that's a filter. We all like filters. It's one of the things we instinctively go to on any synth is the kind of filter. So get yourself one of those and then patch it out of your synth into that and then back in. So that was my kind of idea. It was just I mean, if anything, it was to create unique sort of sounds so I could sample them and then multi-samples and then stick them in like Prophet X, and
that's more what I
make
do.
patches.
Yeah.
That was it.
So the other thing that you mentioned too was that you were a little bit reluctant to do it at first because you thought, well, I don't know if I could be bothered pulling in cables and you know, all this sort of stuff. And then you said, I'm just going to create a patch and it's going to stay there for weeks, right? So this is actually kind of why I got into Eurorack. Exactly the same point, but I had a solution for it. And my solution was to create a patch on one of my Eurorack modules, and then I record it as a clip into, and in my case, I'm recording it as a clip into the Akai Force here. So you can see there's the Akai Force right there. And everything's connected into Akai Force, like the whole mixer is connected into it. But I could mute everything and just have a Eurorack module and just make a clip of that. And you can see there's a line of clips here in the pink, right? And they're all System 100 clips. And let me just show you. So that is literally me getting patches and then changing them and making a clip of it. And then I don't care. I take photos of my patches as well, but I don't really care if I lose it. And I think I think a lot of people have that fear. Exactly what you said. I thought it's such a good point. And I actually even forgot about it. And that was my solution. I thought, yep, that's going to get me into Eurorack. And it did. It got me into it. I don't have as much stuff as you guys. So, and it's not like, you know, how big is my Eurorack? It's show. But mine is, I do have another Rack Brute 6U coming. But I don't know if you guys follow me on social media, but these things aren't coming out of the factory at the moment. So there's a bit of a hold up on it. And the reason why I like the 6U is because of that desk clearance. And plus I can actually, I can connect this to this. So I can actually have two 6Us together. I can have one sitting on the desk, connected up to the same thing. So it's actually kind of modular, and these little red things flip out and you can actually sandwich them together and it doesn't mess up your patches, all sorts of cool things. But for me, I want to move it across to the other side of my desk, which is here, where you can see. So you can see my 6U there. I want to put the other 6U here. At the moment, the Nifty case is just there, sort of temporary, and I'm using that purely as a skiff that I kind of, at the moment it's my System 100 skiff, but it might be System 2500 when they come out, whatever they're called. But you know, it's going to be that. So it doesn't really matter. Is kind of the point. And you know, for me, I I started off, and you guys will remember me saying this, who's been watching me from the start. I started off purposely wanting to do like a sort of utilities thing. So I bought exactly the same as you, Jamie. I bought the Behringer Neutron, and you can see it's not even connected up at the moment. But I already had a scooper, so that was my first module that I ever owned, and I never ever was able to use it because it wasn't in a case. But then I bought the Magneto because it was just so cheap. You still can't even get the Magneto used at the price I got this thing for. I don't know how. So I reckon someone lost their job over it. It was that cheap. So you can't say no to something like that. I love that module. It's such a good module.
It's
so
a fantastic module.
it's so musical. Sorry, I just hit play accidentally. And you know, a lot of these modules that you see in here aren't actually musical. There's a math module. There's a clock divider. There's a gate mult. There's clouds copy. There's the dystopia, which is part of that chromatic stuff you guys have got. You know what's in that. It's all noise and bit crushy and stuff like that. There's the Caltrange, which is a tuner. What do you call it? A quantizer tuner. And then you've got this is the first musical thing that you see in this case. That's a Sid Guts Deluxe. That's got a Commodore 64 SID chip in it, a real one. Then you've got the Roland 572, which is a System 100 clone. That's a phase shifter, delay, and LFO. And then there's my first oscillator, if you don't include the SID, which is the Roland 512. So that's really not musical at all, that rack. That's very utility based. Because you look at the scooper is kind of like a sampler scatter, Magneto's like a tape delay, Typhoon's like a delay / reverb / extraordinaire. My mic just went weird there. Sorry, guys. It went funny. Yeah, so kind of similar, Jamie. Kind of similar. And when we're talking about Eurorack for noobs or Eurorack, it doesn't have to be. There doesn't have to be a rule, and there doesn't have to be a fear either. And I think, like Jamie, you've shown that you've gone straight into yours. You went Neutron and you went Waldorf, and you had kind of a similar thing. Waldorf was on sale. I went from Neutron, and I got the Strymon Magneto because it was on sale. So it's kind of a similar sort of journey. And then before you know it, you're buying. But the good thing about it is too, if you're married like I am, they're easy to get them in the front door. Just a module every now and then. They're only little boxes that they come in. So it's a good thing for us. It's a bit hard to get a Moog 1 through the front door. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to get. I consider Burg. I consider you to be a lot more further down the track in terms of Eurorack than I, and Daren, you as well. But I'm going to go with Burg first. I just want to
say I'm on the answer.
I just wanted to get your opinion about like how you started. And obviously, I know yours has changed because I've been watching what you've been doing, and yeah, I know, and you definitely use your Eurorack in your music, in your recordings. So yeah, just take us through that journey a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, I had a path when I wanted to go Eurorack, right? Because I wanted to incorporate sound synthesis available to me in the other instruments that I had today. So mainly what I'm talking about is the modal type of synthesis like you hear in the rings, and also sample slicing when it comes to the morphogene, and also wavetable stuff, right? So this is really where I wanted to, focus my build on from the beginning. And I took it really, really slow. So one of the main things that I had when I started out with just the voice and a filter and an envelope and a mixer, I wanted to allow myself a lot of time to tinker with these modules and instruments. So after a little while, I was, it would be nice if I would if I might need like an extra envelope or an LFO, whatever stuff, right? So making music and making sounds for a long period of time with only a select modules actually helped me to understand what I needed in order to take the system to the next level when it comes to music making. So this is really how I started my journey. And also, what I think is a really important thing that I learned, not just go and buy everything that I see because it looks cool. You might not need all of these things, right? Once you get the actual workflow on how you're intending to create music. So the goal for the actual build was that I wasn't going to make music just in the modular. And so that meant that I can take out I don't necessarily need like drums and whatnots and a fully fledged big sequencer system. I can just easily use like an external MIDI sequencer. So that was the main plan, to give it the clock and all of those things, right? And also, secondly, once I started to make music, I wanted to be self-sufficient. So I'm kind of making patch that has a lot of modulation and stuff going on in the background. So I don't really have to care that much about the modular once I start, once the music starts and I do the jam. So this is why I wanted to split it up and having one module case that has all of the sound generating things. Then I have what I call the control bolt. This is really where I have the sequencer, where I have the touch panels, and I have the joysticks and everything, all the tactile surfaces, so to speak, right?
Right.
So I can focus on making the music while I don't dive into the forest that much, the cable forest anymore, only for minor tweaks and whatnot. So I always have everything patched either to the joystick or to the tetrapad. So this is really how I look at the actual performance aspect of it all. So. For me, it was a long journey, and I think that my suggestion to anybody starting out with Eurorack, buy a huge case. It will be gaping as an open wound for a long time, and only start with a couple of select modules and feel your way around what it is that you would expect and want to have in your system in order to get to those things that you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Because once you're in the, let's say you need an LFO. Okay, there's like a million things out there. What is it that you're looking for in the LFO? Is it uncertainty, or do you want to have like a Swiss Army knife type of LFO? So you can go different paths. Like you could select the Oct, for example, from DivKit. That's a wonderful LFO module that I don't have, but I'm planning to buy because of the nature that it's been built. You have the master LFO rate, and you're dividing that into other rates. So the kind gives you some uncertainty, but still in a mathematical accuracy, you can get the other rates out for different things, because that's what I do. I put LFOs on envelopes, I put LFOs, and I put LFOs on filters, the most obvious one. So really, the textures in the music, once it start playing, it can just start going by itself. You don't really have to touch anything, right? And that's really my main idea, building the modular as a complement to my setup, not as a main system to only do music on. And I think that's kind of the first decision that I think that each and every person needs to make. Do I want to make music with just a modular, or do I want to use it as a complement? And then you need to think about what is the type of sound synthesis that you're after. And also the big question is, do you want to have effects or not in your box? Do you want to have delays and reverb? Because they eat a lot of space, obviously.
Yeah.
And I have taken the choice of using just outboard effects for the simple reason, because I want to, how do you say it, optimize the HP in my box.
Right. Yeah. No, that's some really good points there. I actually keep you on your screen there, and you can just hear my terrible voice over the top. But tell us a little bit about this. What you call it, the control surface. So this is basically this is your player's area.
Exactly. So I don't know if you can hear me over here.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yep.
All right. So what I have here is it's basically external input, right? So I have an ears. This is a contact microphone that has a little bit of a. You can use it directly here on the plate, or you can use external contact microphones or other instruments as well. And you can get the sound out of the contact microphone, and also envelopes and gates, right? So this is really good for triggering stuff that is not like you can use pots and pans and guitars or whatnot. It's really, really fun. And then I have the Planner 2 from IntelliGel. This is basically a joystick controller that has multiple outputs. You have the different directions, A, B, C, D, like this. And then you have X, Y controllers as well. And you can also record motion, right? And replay.
Yeah.
So it's basically a good way of set and forget if you have like a setting. You can possibly maybe listen to something here.
So it's a bit like a chaos pad, is it? In a way.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes. So this is. I have filter.
Yep.
Also wave shape.
Yep.
Different resonance as well, right? And this gives you a really good way of finding where, giving you like artistic control over the sequences, right? And
Yep.
I can start a track, just go in this manually, and then I can record it. Just set it, and it will continue, right? And that is something
awesome.
that I really like the idea of this module, because that gives you artistic expression. At the same time, you can also record a movement and just go to another instrument and continue the track, right?
Yeah, that's a really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. I love it. Then I have the main sequencer for everything. This is the Winter Modular Eloquencer. It has 8 CV outs and 8 trigger gate outs as well. So you could play 8 melodies with this one if you want to, right? It's only 16 steps, but you can put them together and chain them. But I mainly use melodies like random notes and whatnot. So maybe I'm creating a 16-step pattern with some notes in it, but I have them triggered randomly to add some flair and extra, textures on top of the music that I'm already doing. So it's never really the main sound. It's just, stuff that I put on top that I can punch in and out. And I have a lot of sound sources in the module. Like I think I have like 5 or 6 in total. So this is more than enough for my current needs.
Yeah.
Then I also have the Tetra Pad, and this is basically a tactile interface where you can do CV gate triggers, so you can use it as a keyboard. And mapping it to whatever setting, then we can have a filter here. You can have maybe a keyboard and play melodies on it, and you can also set it as a there's different modes in it, right? So it does a lot of things. So this is also very, very good. But I'm thinking of maybe changing this for another tactile interface, because I feel myself that I'm not using it as much as I really should be doing.
Yeah.
Then I have a trigger sequencer, step sequencer as well. This is basically 4 outs that I can use for drums and sequences, and also modulating other stuff. And then I have a noise source and random and slew limiter, and a little tuner here, from whatever they call the Zeroscope from BPME. Really, really useful when you want to tune your oscillators and look at the signal, what's coming in and what's coming out. And this is really the part of the system that I use when I'm making the jams and making music. I just set everything over here, and then I control the different sounds from this part. And this also allows me to have the keyboard here whenever I want to play like normal keyboard style. And, so I don't really have to think about the module once it's, plugged in and ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good idea. And like you were saying, you've also got the other module in the other rack, a case there. They're kind of already just all patched in, and you don't really have to touch it because you've got modulation sources all patched in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, I've learned that diving into these, between the cables and everything, it's also fun starting out with the modular as the main sound. But I rarely do that. It's more like I write the music, then I add something on top. Whenever I make music with the modular only, of course I do the diving in between cables, because there's a part of me that likes the idea of diving in between cables and doing stuff, and doing the manual modulation rather than the automated ones, right? But that's really rare nowadays. I don't tend to use the modular in that fashion. So I think that for me, this system has served me really well. I have a couple of changes that I'm planning on doing, but nothing spectacular. One of the things that I'm thinking about is exchanging the morphogene, because I find myself not using the sample slicing and stuff like that in the modular as I initially thought, because sample slicing is really about sounds than within the modular itself. And I think it's a little bit tedious having to load sounds onto the SD card and get it from the computer. It's not natural in the flow, right? So I'm thinking of maybe replacing that with a complex oscillator instead. But that's far down the road, really. But altogether, it's probably not visible. Sorry for that. I don't have my camera set up properly yet. But
No, it's fine.
I have my braids as one of the main oscillators that I've been using for a long time. Rings for mutable instruments as well, and obviously the Morphogene that I talked about before.
Yep.
And I have the Basilinus Italitus Alter from Noise Engineering for drums and percussion.
Yep.
And then I also have the IntelliGel Plonk for drums and percussion as well.
Yep.
And I also have the Tides LFO, or from mutable instruments that I've changed the software in, so it's actually a wavetable VCO. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And those are the only sound sources. The 3 analog VCOs I have from Doppler, the A111-3 discrete VCOs that I use for chords and things like that. So yeah, it's a nice system. I like it a lot, and I don't see myself changing it too much because I'm really happy with the setup. And maybe sometime in the future I might get a second case, but today I don't have space for it. So I think I'm going to stick with the system for at least a year before I do any major changes to it.
Yeah, I think probably what we're getting from this too is that you've got a functional space there. Like if you go to that view, your space is a functional space, so it's not necessarily look at all my synths on show. I'm so cool. It's actually a functional space. So for a lot of guys who watch and they see you, Burg, they may not actually know this because obviously a lot of your videos are just music only. So we get you on here. It's actually really rare, and it's awesome because we get to talk to you and you actually you can tell us why you've got things set up on that side of the room, why you've got things set up on the other, how you can sort of slide your chair around. It's all to do with, because I've been watching you over many years, as you know, and you've got this way that you work, and this is a functional space for you. And I can't see, like, for example, you're not going to build a synth room and not have this sort of corridor set up. I reckon you'll always have something similar to this because that's the way you operate, isn't it? So it's very
absolutely.
It's functional, is what I'm kind of getting at. And you've done the same, as a microcosm in your Eurorack setup. You've got a functional setup there. You've got your your playing area, and you've got your sound generating area. And it's quite intelligent how you've done it. How you kind of set all the patches up. You don't really need to change it that much because all the magic's done in the playing and modulating area. So yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Great insight.
So
awesome.
I think that you hit your head on the nail there, right? Because for me, workflow has always been key. It's very important for me how I reach each synth instrument. I can work on muscle memory, having stuff in a special location, and that I also can reach between the two sides is very important for me, because if I'm doing something over here, I can trigger another sequence on that side, right? So I don't want to have too big a space when it comes to the actual size of it. I might want to have a bigger room so I can go behind the instruments when I connect cables and reroute stuff. But at this size is probably something that will stick with me for a long time. And I don't think that I want to have a bigger studio where I have like stuff on the far end of the wall where I can't reach them. Only by sequencing them via MIDI or something, of course. But I like the idea of being able to control each and every individual synth by itself rather than just using a sequencer, right? So that has been an integral part in how I build my studio. And I think that also, as you said, I mean, it reflects into the modular setup as well. And that works really well for me. And once you get to learn your setup, you find some flaws and some gaps. Really, moving instruments around, getting a shelf or something to move it closer to another instrument is really what I do, rather than just getting something new, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way I try to operate, at least. But having said that, obviously it's fun to buy new gear, so I'm not a stranger there. But I always want to have a special place and a use case for Eurorack module and or a synth or an instrument. And I think that's the key takeout from my building the Eurorack, is think about it. What is it that you want to have? Because you won't know until you tried it and fiddled and played around what it is that you desire and need in your music making, right? So think about that. I think that it has helped me a lot when I built my system.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good advice. Now, quick comment to Wigoo. Thanks very much for the £5 donation. Awesome. We'll split that between us guys and we'll have a coffee or a beer. That's really, really generous of you. Thanks for that. Now, I watched this YouTube stream the other day and this guy donated $500 to this guy. And I was like, I've never seen anything like that. Like, it's some crazy, he just felt benevolent, I guess, that day. But I'm not asking you guys, and I just thought I'd bring it up because I'm still kind of, my jaw is still coming off the ground. I only watched this like 2 days ago, seeing this $500 donation. I think it's crazy, knowing the fact that YouTube is going to get 1/3 of it. So, who's the CEO of Google? He's probably just rubbing his hands together right now when he got that donation. But yeah, I think Daren, I think we'd love to hear from you because I kind of haven't finished going around to everyone yet. So can we get kind of a similar sort of story from you, like what started you? I know you've got your module up above your head. That was your first skiff, wasn't up there? So maybe maybe talk about that. Up a little bit.
Can I get it right?
There you go.
Up there. Yeah, I did a bit like Burg says, actually. Buy a bigger case than you need because you don't know what you want to put in it. You might have an idea, but I can assure you it'll probably change as you start adding modules or even the way you work. My system's a bit like I can name myself back. Who's that?
It's not me.
Hello,
it's not me.
What I'll do is I'll mute everyone and then okay, you talk and see if you can hear yourself back now.
All right. No, I can't hear myself.
Good.
Yeah, so mine's a little bit like you do, Ranz. I sort of use the modular to create sounds, sequences, just random stuff that I'll sample and then use to create tracks or build tracks up from, like the track I did last week with the Akimi's Castle, all FM. So that's how I use the system. What got me into it? I don't know. I've always watched videos on modular, and I've always thought I like the way it's unpredictable and it gets you out of the computer. It gets you out of going through presets or designing them. It's sort of like, and it's very hands-on. So you're sort of like just literally locked with these bunch of wires, plugging it into things, not knowing what it's going to do, and coming across surprising accidents. And I think that's a good thing about modular, but it is expensive. But that's like I said, just very similar to you, Ranz.
Yeah,
how I do things.
So show us the nifty case that you've got. You have shown us before, but just because people are watching and it's all sort of topical now. You got your new chromatic modules from Dreadbox. And so which ones did you get? You got the Hysteria,
I got the oscillator, the filter, come mixer, come BCA, the delay Hysteria, no, not Hysteria, sorry, Nostalgia, and the modulator, which is LFO, ADSR, but the delay unit is very similar very similar sounding to the Erebus. I think it even might be the same one with the triple delay in it. So that's quite dirty, quite gritty.
I think they said it was. Yeah.
And the good thing about it is you can actually take two of the delays, because it's a 3-stage delay. You can take those 2 delays, so they can take the third. It's a third of the delay and the full mix out as well, so you can separate all 3, which is quite good. But like I say, for the same, if you're starting off cheap, they have multi-functions on each of them, so you're sort of getting more than one module in a way.
Yeah, you do, don't you? And that was kind of unique about their plan, wasn't it? That not only were these cheap,
Yeah.
but they were. I mean, I guarantee you they're built well because I've done microscopic videos of these things, and they are built really, really well. But at the same time, they've got multiple
The only
sort
thing
of
is you've got
uses.
to, yeah, as long as you've not got huge fingers. There's
Yeah,
a bit sort of Volker-esque, aren't there? The buttons, the knobs, and the sliders. Very Volker-esque.
I think the sliders have got a nice tactile sort of feel to them, though. There's definitely a resistance on them, so they slide quite well. I mean, the knobs are pretty loose, but they're one of those knobs that you twist and forget. They're not really sort of a player knob, are they? In most of those cases, the sliders that you play more. The way they've designed their modules, the sliders are more the playing part. But yeah, no, that's good. That's awesome. Now, guys, gentlemen, I would like to know, and I'm sure everyone else would like to know, if you're telling someone starting out in Eurorack, you've already said to them, get a big case to start with. What would be your first recommended module to buy? So they've got nothing. They've rushed out and they've bought a massive 6,000 HP case, and it's filled their entire studio wall to wall because they've listened to your advice. What's the first module they're going to put in it? Let's start with. We haven't heard from Jamie for a bit, so we'll go with Jamie. First module.
Well, I suppose it's something that you can't really use with existing gear. So something that's going to make some drastic change. It's going to be something sexy, like either an oscillator or a filter, isn't it? I mean, your first module isn't necessarily going to be like a buffered mult. So, it's going to be something sexy, like a nice juicy filter that you can stick a digital synth through, or like I said, something like the Neutron, and mess around with it that way. Because otherwise, if you just get something a little bit flat and boring, then you're not really going to get into it. So, but there it is with filters. There's so many out there, that you can mess around with. I started off. Switch over. I don't know if you can. Switch over. See, I started off and I got one of the Waldorf ones, which is the Waldorf filter, which is towards the right next to the Moleco. And that's a 12 dB filter, but it's bandpass and all that. I think it was about £160, something like that.
Is it analog?
And it does a couple. You what, sorry?
Is it an analog filter?
Yeah, it's analog. Yeah, it's an analog filter because it's their whole system. Apart from the oscillator, the wavetable oscillator is
digital.
That's digital, but no, that's that. So that was the first kind of filter, and it's kind of I like it, I don't like it. Then I got the 521 filter, the Roland one, which Behringer have kind of copied with their system, and they do both sound very, very good.
They do,
One of the latest ones I've bought is the Geranalog, and that's a great filter. You can see it next to the orange.
Saw that there. Nice.
Utopia module.
Now, what's unique about that filter?
Well, I mean, it's got separate outs and everything for all the bandpass, high pass, and everything. It also has the pingable as well, so you can create these extra types of sort of rhythms as well. It's just got a lovely tone to it. If you want a nice, lovely Roland one, there's the 521, But get something like that, or something that, I mean, one of the fun things I've got actually is a Moleco Variegate 4, which you can't see under the cables, but 4+. But that's a great sequencer for random stuff. But there's that, and also then your cables. Here's something. You look at the cables. I mean, you can see there. I went and got two colours, and one red is for CV and yellow is for audio. So it makes it a little bit easier for organising. But I got their braid ones, and you look at the price of them, and something that'll be like a 6-inch, it'll be like £9, and maybe a couple of pounds extra, you can get double the length. And you think, oh great, I'll just get longer ones. But once you start patching, longer ones, you just end up with a big mess.
Yeah.
So get some decent quality cables, but make sure you get short ones as well. So
get a couple of different lengths.
Yeah, some a couple of different lengths, and the short ones will help. And then buffered mults. They're good. There's the multiples that so you can copy one signal multiple times. And Behringer have done the one that they've got with it's under that huge nest, but they're unbuffered. But
they're unbuffered.
Means they're power.
Even though they say on their marketing, that they were buffered.
It's one who, for instance, you got your sequencer and you plug a sequencer into one of the mults. And then you can split that signal multiple times. Now, if you're sending it over to oscillators, then they might not exactly be accurate if using unbuffered. But end of the day, I've tested it. They all sound all right in real world. So
you can see that you're using yours already, and I use mine all the time. You can see.
They're great, even if you haven't got long enough cables. You can just send. But for instance, you could send the sawtooth out of one oscillator, plug it into one of the mults, the inputs, and you can create 3 copies and send that to different filters. So they're good Swiss art, but they're not exactly sexy.
That will just be careful with audio in that. I mean, CV as well, I guess. It will slightly diminish as you. As you share that signal, because it is literally splitting that signal across the wires as such. So Mega Mark's actually in the chat, and we were talking about a mult that he got recently. Do you want to remind us what the one you got was, matey? Because actually, that one I'm actually thinking of getting. It was pretty cool, in fact. While he's reminding us, I might see if I can get a picture of it up. It's actually a buffered mult, which means that there's actually it will continue the perfect CV voltage across, or if it's an audio signal, it'll keep that. So that's always important too, because you don't want to lose tuning or anything like that when you're doing that sort of stuff.
I've got a tip-top audio. The tip-top audio. It's only about it's tiny. It's like 4 HP, even if that, or even 2. It's just tiny thing, but you've got 2 inputs and 3 each, and they're buffered. So I've used those for oscillators, for splitting, the sequencer. So there's not going to be a loss of them over the sort of distance. So but the cheapest hell. Tip-top audio.
Tip-top audio, Now, the one that Mark was telling us about was by a company called Blue Lantern modules, or BLM, as people like to call them. And I think it's just called a buff, isn't it, mate? I can't remember now. I'll try and get the picture of it. It's around here somewhere. Scroll. I'll have to find it later. There it is. Yep. Let's save that image. This is actually a really cool little buffered mult if you are kind of in that market, and I'm definitely going to be getting one of these for a lot of reasons, but I think the main one is that you get 5x4 on this. So let's just do it this way. You guys can see it better. So you get 5. So there's 3 across the top with 4 outs, and then there's 2 down the bottom with 4 outs. And they're all buffered, which means that it only takes up 8 HP as well, which is pretty cool. The Behringer one takes up 16 HP, and it's 6 times 3. So that's probably better use of space in a way, technically. But and the fact that it's buffered as well. And I think it was only about £80 or $80 or something. That was actually pretty cheap. I think they're on special at the moment too. But Mark will probably remind us. For those who are kind of in the UK area, you can get them from Juno Records if you're wondering where you get the Blue Lantern modules from. So they're actually really cool.
The thing is, just start second hand as well. You don't have to buy new. Just they're all they're forever. On eBay, that's just, for a long while. I used to skip all that. But yeah, just get and then try it out if it ain't for you. Then some people say maybe the Waldorfs aren't that great. It's an experiment to a degree. You buy it if you like it. You don't. You don't. It's like synths. You just get rid, don't you?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's secondhand. That module. Got that off a guy off Facebook, and I've got another Roland. I've got 2 Roland modules here, and I've got another 2 Roland modules coming. I'm worried that they might be sort of floating in the ocean at the moment. But anyway, another story. One of them's coming from New Zealand, and one of them's coming, God knows from where. But hopefully they will be here soon. The one I'm getting from New Zealand is secondhand, and it's a VCA, so it's exactly the same as the Behringer VCA that I've got, which is the 130.
What are you using for outputs? What are you using for your outputs from Eurorack into line?
Okay, so what I've ordered at the moment, I'm going into the Nifty case output, which is on the other camera, because the Nifty case has got 2 outputs here on the right.
So is that converting Eurorack to line level?
Yeah, and you've got and you can see the 1/4-inch jack coming out the top of it.
Right.
So that's the moment. That's what I'm using for output. But I've also ordered the Roland 531 mixer, which is actually a really, really nice module. And it's I did a lot of research about. I wanted to get a mixer Eurorack module. I don't need a mixer for Eurorack, but what I actually do need in Eurorack is I need it to be able to pan and give me a left and right output, to give me a stereo signal and be able to pan mono sources. And this module, bang for buck, had everything I needed, and it was only about 250 quid. So I wasn't too worried about the price of it. And I thought, out there's so many mixer modules, and a lot of them are priced north of that. So that's actually pretty good. And I actually do think Roland Maleko make a really good module. So that will be my main mixing sort of module. I do so I do want to get other people's opinions about that question we said before. What's the first module? Jamie, thanks very much for yours. Burg, do you have a recommendation, the best first module to get?
Yeah, I mean, I would go for something that makes sound, right? Because that's the main reason you're getting a modular. And there's a lot of very versatile modules out there that has a lot of stuff built into them. I'm thinking mainly of the mutable instruments, braids, and also plats. I started out with the braids myself, and the really good thing is that you have a built-in VCA as well in it. So which means that you can, if you're starting very, very slim, you bought a big, super expensive case, maybe you don't have the money to invest in a lot of modules in the beginning. So that's where I actually started out myself, getting the braids, right? And it had the built-in to start making drones day one, really. And, obviously some kind of, filter to modulate it with, and obviously some kind of really good utility on top of that too. But sound generation is what you're after generally, and get something that you're comfortable with, and that has the sound that you're looking for, and that's really a simple recommendation from my end. And I got the braids, and I got also I don't remember the name of the filter. Ripples and also mats. From Make Noise when I started out. Those were my first 3 modules, and I could start making music already with the 3 of them. Yeah. So yeah,
there you go. Awesome. Awesome. Now, Daren, do you want to answer the same question? You happy to?
Yeah, I'd probably say a bit like Burg, actually, plats, because like I say, it's got a built-in VCA, so you don't need to worry about that. Or if you didn't want to push the boat out, I would actually go with the Dreadbox, because it has the crafty quantizer button on it. So that'd be pretty interesting. But yeah, you're going to be sound and filter. So I'd go plats or the Dreadbox. Is it Hysteria? Just because of the little quantizer as well.
Yeah, oscillator.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so we've gone pretty much similar down a similar sort of route. Most people are saying oscillators and filters, sound generation. I'm going to slightly go different. And look, there's no right or wrong with this, but I'm going to say, well, I'm just going to base it on what I did first. So here's the thing, right? A lot of synths these days that you buy have a lot of CV already in them. They're just doing that now. Like, for example, Behringer's Pro 1 is here. It's got a big row across the top full of CV. And there's so many other examples, like the Arturia, even the little Micro Brute that came out all those years ago had a massive little, modular sort of connectivity on it. So you can't really sort of say there's not many synths that have got Eurorack connectivity or CV connectivity on it. So in terms of generating sound, you may already have it. So what I would suggest, the first module to get is definitely this one, the Make Noise Mass. I think that's going to be a fairly decent spend because they're not cheap, and there's a really good reason why they're not. But that module has got so much in it. There's actually a couple of different ways you can get that. You can get like a half version of it. I can't remember. It's not called the Mass. It's called something else. But if you're on a budget, you can get like a half version of it. But I would recommend just get the full Mass. It's basically a crazy envelope generator, but it cycles, it triggers. You can even use it as an oscillator. I mean, it's seriously insane, this module, and it's analog, and it's cool, and it's awesome. But on top of that, you can use this module, for example. I'm not going to give you the only use for it. This is just one example. You can use this module straight away with that Behringer Pro 1, and you can change the shape of your envelopes on the way that Behringer Pro 1 is going to sound purely straight away without even having any other module. And then you'll have a different sound already. And the second recommendation I would put as your first, module to get is VCA. Any VCA. You can never have enough VCAs. And there's a massive reason for it. So basically, I'll go to the other view here. Even the Behringer, the cheap Behringer ones, so there's dual VCA here, right? They're actually really good. That is actually probably, out of all the Behringer modules, that's actually probably one of the best value modules you can get. Because what are they? About $100, and you've got two VCAs in there. Now, the cool thing about VCAs is that they literally will take a solid signal, even if it's just an oscillator blurping out a waveform, and it will take it and literally you turn the gain down and nothing will come out the back of it. But then you've got the opportunity to modulate that. You've got the opportunity to mix it in a way because like most VCAs will give the opportunity to, for example, the Behringer one's got 3 signal ins per VCA. So you've got 2 VCAs in that one module. That's 6 inputs. It's a mixer. That's a mixer just in its own right. Then at the same time, you can modulate that mix. You can put an envelope generator into it. And you've got the maths already. So all of a sudden now you're using a maths, a VCA, and then that can go out. Now, there's so many other things. You can overdrive VCAs. You can feed them back into themselves. You can get distortion. It's a huge thing to do. And a lot of synths don't let you do that just with a normal synth. Like, for example, and actually, it's kind of almost infuriating. Once you start doing Eurorack, you kind of start to think, why aren't synth manufacturers letting us do this in the synths? Jamie, you're making patches all the time. For example, like how many synths will let you run a VCA back into itself? It's not many.
Yeah.
There's Moog would probably be the most popular one, but yeah.
No, Eurorack definitely makes you think about the process a lot more because you buy a synth that's everything's all in there. You don't need to think about the connections that's going under the hood. So, but when you go Eurorack, you learn at a different level, a lot more detail. It's more, excuse the pun, but granular detail about the whole synthesis and the flow of it. And you can do, as you mentioned, about VCAs into VCAs, you can do things that just wouldn't be possible on a normal synthesizer. And that to me it's that part is the fun part. If it sounds like a pile of rubbish, then fair enough. But it's like a jigsaw puzzle for grown-ups. You're sitting there and you think, all right, what if that goes into there and that goes into there? And then you just do it. And I think that's the thing that I enjoy about it the most, because, normal synths, and I class, all polysynths, and they're all normal synths to me, subtractive synths, they all work the same way. So they're very predictable. But this whole sort of my experience so far has been, it makes me think a lot harder about the whole sort of process. And then, you'll do something, you think, oh, that should, and then you'll push play on your sequencer or and nothing comes out. You think, what the hell have I done wrong? So, it's a different way of thinking. I think that's what I liked about it. It's a bit more in depth.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So
very more in depth than something like that, where the most basic synthesizer on the planet. But yeah, I think that's, if you're into that kind of, for me, it's time out from doing patches, because I can just knock up patches for fun all day long. But having something that isn't to do with work is why I sort of went down that road a little bit, and I enjoy it. It's good fun.
Well, I mean, I'm with you a bit. Like, so that Juno, right? I know you've sold it, but I would put the Juno into my Eurorack, and then I would mangle and like just completely just make that Juno not even a Juno anymore. That's the thing. Like, when you're doing sort of sounds and you're becoming like an electronic musician, one of the things is you want to try and make some original sort of sounds, and people are scratching their head going, what VST did you use to do that? That's the biggest question I get asked. I'm like, I didn't use a VST. I used electricity. So, bringing the Juno into the Magneto, and then, or even just having the Juno just make a constant oscillator sound, right? And then bringing that through into a VCA, and then that VCA then modulate that with the SID chip. It's so many cool things you can do. And you don't need necessarily to throw your gear at just because you want to buy a Eurorack. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden now all your synths that have got keyboards on them, like, the Minilog, doesn't mean that that's now obsolete. That's what I'm saying. Use it with what you've got. And that's exactly what Burg's doing. He's using his Eurorack with everything else. It's kind of either mixed in or it's, used in tandem.